Hey everyone, this is Brittany and Amy from NetPlus. We are really excited to get started and present you guys Social Media 101. If you have any questions at all during this presentation, please feel free to put them in the question box and we'll be happy to answer them towards the end. So I'm Brittany and I'm a content strategist at NetPlus. I actually started out as a community manager answering people on social media. And I worked my way onto the creative team where I became a content specialist and I focus solely on social media. So I spend a lot of time concepting, doing research. I'm also in charge of the ad buying for social and reporting.
And I'm Amy. I'm also a content specialist at NetPlus. I do the current community management and kind of split my time doing that and other types of content for social, email, and websites.
So I know that a lot of you saw our teaser video for this, and we went over kind of the state of social media. So just to kind of recap, obviously right now, social media is kind of always in a constant state of flux, and it's really making it difficult for brands to keep up with many new features and changes and kind of the rules as they happen. So everyone kind of knows they need to be on social media, but it's changed so much over the past few years. And it kind of makes you always question, is your strategy really holding up? So whether you're reevaluating your company's social presence right now, or you're starting a new campaign, or you're just starting an account from scratch, we're going to kind of go through everything you need to know in order to build a successful social media strategy. Just to put a few things in perspective for you, here's a couple of big stats that are currently happening. So there's 1.5 billion daily active global users on Facebook and 800 million on Instagram currently. And also another really interesting fact is 1/3 of users have become interested in a brand of a product after seeing it on Instagram stories, which we'll touch on a little bit more later. Then there's also 200 million daily active Instagrammers that visit business profiles every single day. Obviously, right now, video content is really king. And by 2021, 1 million minutes of video content will cross each network each second, which is insanely huge. So, kind of just going back to the then versus now, right now, being active on social media, it kind of just meant posting organically. No one really put any dollars behind their posts. But now your business has to be on social media. It's not really something that you can choose not to do. And another thing, in order to be successful, you have to incorporate a paid social media strategy in your marketing plan. So for the first part of this webinar, we're going to talk about the testing, measuring, and tracking aspect of social media. So the first and foremost, the number one thing that you have to do is you want to identify your goal on social media. This is huge, and you always want to make sure that your content is paired with a goal. You want to think about what exactly do you want to achieve? Do you want to make people aware of your business? Do you want to spark engagement around your company? Do you want to drive purchases? This is just something that you really need to focus on before you can kind of go into anything else. While you kind of think about that, we're going to go into kind of picking your platform. So I know we touched on these a little bit during the teaser video, but we're going to go a little more in depth for these. So every platform has a different purpose. And one of the big things we recommend is only focusing on anywhere on from 2 to 3 of these. You don't have to be on every single social media channel. You just want to be on 2 to 3 and you want to be performing on them very well. So if you go into Facebook, this is a really great place for to focus on reaching your audience and driving traffic to your website. Because Facebook has the largest audience, obviously you can reach a larger audience there. It also creates a lot of opportunities to share positive brand stories. People always love reading articles on Facebook. And also another thing is you can really increase your brand lift and recall just because you can be posting more frequently. Also, Facebook is a direct line to economic impact, and you can really track your purchasing there because of some of the ad platforms that they have. But we'll go into that a little bit later. So next is Instagram. This is the second largest social channel that's really making a name for itself. So everything about Instagram is around beauty and kind of creating that visual identity for yourself. Um, so this is a really great place where you can leverage user generated content. You can track hashtags and see what people are tagging your business in. And you can also reward people for their loyalty. You can give them coupons. You can, we like to do these things called surprise and delights, and you can mail people different things. This is really great for Instagram. Going into Twitter, Twitter is a really great customer service platform. It really helps you protect your reputation in real time, and you can answer questions very easily through that platform. It's allowing people to engage in real time conversations and different pop culture events. Also, this is a really great place where you can share thought leadership. And this is where you can share different ideas about your business or things that you guys really stand for. Next, for Pinterest. Pinterest is a huge discovery platform. So you're able to reach people when they're making decisions. And it's kind of this platform that allows you to be visually innovative, which is awesome. You can share different photos of how people would use your products, or you can use a lot of lifestyle photography. Also, Pinterest is really the platform if you're sharing something on Pinterest, or if you're just a user of Pinterest, this is where you're going to really build consideration. So you want to be part of that process. And this really helps you grow your sales because it's a direct platform to your website. So next we have LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a really great place to share company news, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with this. So this is really the main platform where you can share company news and thought leadership. It's also a huge recruiting tool. And then lastly, we have Snapchat, which is really a place where brands can show their personality, and it can drive people to take action. And you can share your brand story. It can be more personal. But honestly, Snapchat's probably going to be more on the outs and might not be something you want to focus on right now. So going into the second step, you really want to make sure that you're choosing your objectives. Here are a couple of them that we're going to go over. So these are actually some platforms or objectives, that is available on both Facebook and Instagram. This is directly from their platform, and it's a really great outline of different objectives that you can focus on. So the first one being reach. This is where you can reach people near your business. This is probably one of the most popular objectives that they have that really works. You can reach the most amount of people for your money. Next is brand awareness, and this is great on both Facebook and Instagram. This is where you're really creating an awareness around a specific promotion. If you think about it, have you ever been just aimlessly scrolling on social media and you're reading the ads, but you're not really taking any action? Both reach and brand awareness, these are really those objectives. So people are still becoming aware of your content, but it's not really forcing them to take an action, which is totally fine. Next is traffic, which drives people to your website. And then you have app installs, which really just drive people to download your app. You can have video views, which get people to watch your video. And then lead generation, this is where you're really driving leads for your business. You are able to get email subscribers or signups. This is actually only available on Facebook, but it's a really great way to build your audience. Next is engagement. This is just putting your content in front of people who either Facebook or Instagram knows would engage with your content. This is obviously a really popular one. You can ask people questions, you could do giveaways. Next, we have page likes. This is basically just asking people to like your page, and you can build your audience that way. Next, we have event responses. This is where you're setting up an event on Facebook and you're asking people to respond to it. Conversions is really great because you can actually see what you're getting in return for this. So if you're asking for someone to sign up for your email list, or if you want to drive purchases, this is the type of objective you would pick. Next, another one is catalog sales. This is really great for any e-commerce clients. This is where you can have a direct line to purchases. And then lastly, store visits. So this can actually track how many people you get to go into the store, which is really, really great. And then lastly, if you kind of just look, all of the ones that are in light blue are really popular ad types that businesses have seen a lot of success from. So just going into some popular ad types to consider, we wanted to make sure that we were sharing content. This is content that we've actually put out for a few of our clients within the last couple of months. So the first one is an Instagram story. So this was driving people to read an article, which is really great. If you haven't looked into Instagram stories before, this is definitely a platform that you should be looking in. Next is collection ads. So this is a direct way that you can shop for products. Facebook actually, it opens up to its own catalog platform, and you can shop right within the app, which makes it really easy for people. The next one is, this was an engagement ad, and it was just a really fun game. And it, for Friendly's ice cream, we wanted people to find all of the signature sundaes. This is just like a fun way to engage with your audience. And then lastly, there's traffic ads. This is also a carousel ad, so you can show multiple pictures and they can link to different landing pages on your website. So it makes a really easy gap for people to shop. Step number 3, your audience targeting. This is really where paid media comes into play. These are just a few things that you can target. You can target your competitors' audience, different demographics, location, interests, behaviors. You could target your entire email list and so much more. So just something to think about. When you're publishing organically, only the people that follow your brand's page will see your content. So if you're not putting any money behind it, you're kind of cutting down your audience drastically. And it's also not always guaranteed that people will see your content. So we wanted to show you just some of the content that we really love. Right here, if you look, is a video of an ad that I was actually served a few days ago. And this is an example of a video ad, and also it drives traffic to your website as well. So then if you look at the next one here, this is obviously a testimonial, and it will show you a picture of a real person, and it's allowing you to shop, and you can also scroll through and look at different products. Then another one is just an article that this brand Low & Sons had shared, and it's driving traffic to their website. And then they also had a instructional video of different ways that they could show their product, and at the same time they were making it really easy for their customers to shop right here. So they can just click it and it will go directly to that page. So just a few takeaways from this part. You always want to start with figuring out what your goal is. This is huge before you even start to think about what platforms you want and what your objective is. Next, you only want to pick 2 to 3 channels. We always say quality over quantity. You don't need to be like flooding content on all of the social channels. You just want to have a few select ones and be really good at it. And then next, you want to choose your objective first and then find the content to match. If you have a picture that you know you want to share, it kind of makes it a little more difficult when you don't know what your exact objective is. So now with all of that information thrown at you, we're going to go to our second part, and this is really when you're planning out your content. Now that you know what your goal is, now we're going to show you different ways that you can really plan visually and your editorial calendar. So when you're planning editorial content, you want to start by planning on a quarterly basis. Now, I know so many people really like to plan further in advance, but I'm sure, as we all know, things change all of the time. So sometimes if you plan too far in advance, you end up having to do double the amount of work. So if you start quarterly, this is just a really great place. What you want to do is you want to, if you look on the left-hand side, this is just going to be a sample restaurant chain editorial calendar. So you want to start by writing out each month within the quarter. And then you want to identify what promotion areas you have going on during that quarter. So here you could see that in January, there's going to be a delivery service promotion and there's going to be new dessert items. So that would be an example of different promotions that you could have going on. Then next, you really want to include any holiday or seasonal trends under each month. And you don't want to do just that. You also want to pair it with a concept. So if looking at January again, it's winter, it's cold weather, it's going to snow. So the concept with that is menu items to warm you up. And then once you have your concept, you're going to want to pair each bullet with an objective. So going back to the first part of this, for delivery service promotion, you want to drive people to your website. You want people to go to the delivery service platform. Next, for new dessert items, you want to make sure that people are aware of this. So awareness would be your objective. And then lastly, for that winter cold weather concept, this is a really great place where you can have engagement and you can talk to your audience. You can ask them what's their favorite meals to eat during the colder weather months. This is just going to really be a starting place on the areas that you want to touch with your social media calendar. When you're planning out your content, these are just a few things to consider. You really want to plan by channel. Sometimes each channel has a different purpose, so your content can't always be the same. So if you plan by channel, it will make your life a lot easier. Next, you really want to stick to a consistent posting schedule. This is really important. Your fans get used to seeing a specific amount of content. Next, you kind of want to find your ideal content mix. So if this is posting videos mixed with lifestyle photography and product shots, you can do that. Or if it's sharing articles and videos, that could be another mix for you. Also, you always want to really be guaranteeing your audience fresh content. You don't want to be reusing the same things over and over and over again because people are not going to want to engage. They've already seen it. So always be sure to be creating new content for your clients. Next, you really want to be spontaneous. Don't be scared to leverage different pop culture events. There are so many different things that happen on a day-to-day basis, so you can be fun and add things into your calendar as well. We're going to show you an example of a spotlight video.
Most of our Instagram posts are planned out. We use Instagram Insights to see who the audience is and finding the common ground between the best performing posts and tailor your marketing towards that. We usually sit down a week before and look at the theme for the week, and we'll pick what we want to post on each day. I think also it is always good to make a little room to play and be spontaneous. We do like to use the stories for more spontaneous, fun stuff as well. Instagram makes it really easy to just have a good time and enjoy doing the best that we can to build all the imagery here.
So that's just an example of how one brand handles their Instagram content. And I would highly recommend going back and looking at that video again. So if you want to go into more about creating a visual identity for yourself, especially on Instagram, like we talked about earlier, this is huge for beauty. And this is where you get to show off really who you are as a brand, and people should be able to recognize your feed and be like, oh yeah, I know who that is. So one of the easiest ways to do it is you want to identify 5 to 10 categories that you would like to focus your content on. So these are the categories to describe these photos right here. So they have different influencers. So this is them paying people to promote their products. In the left-hand side, you can see this is a product flat lay, just a really nice top-down shot of their product styles. They have people with the product. They also share really relatable quotes. They have a lot of videos with text, and they have product close-up shots as well. So when you're creating your identity, you really want to make sure that you stick to these focus areas when planning your content. This is going to kind of be your main foundation. When you're looking for inspiration, because it can be really difficult to find that, the first thing that you would want to do is you really want to look at your competitors' content, and you want to look and see what content stands out from you, for you, and if you could really easily identify their objective. Next, you also want to look at your own social media feed and see what content performed best in the past. If you know that this content performs well for you, that's something you should focus more on. Also, you really want to get familiar with each of one of your social channels' audience, and then you want to tailor your content to reflect their interests. People are going to want to engage with more cool and fun content. So be sure to put out the type of content that you know that your fans are going to want to see. Another thing that I just want to point out is, so this feed is also part of the slide before, and we can easily tell that this is the same brand because they have the same color scheme, which is really huge, and they're also hitting within those 5 to 6 or 5 to 10 pillars that we knew that their content is focused on. So just to show you some really some other content that we really love. So this is on the left is Taco Bell, and they're a really great example of planning out their content to make sure that this feed stays consistent. And you can kind of tell that they plan in rows of 3, so you can see these photos all in a row. They're all the same different theme. There's illustrations, there's really nice product photography, and you can tell it's kind of all within that same beachy setting. And then next, Jimmy John's, you can tell that they're really aesthetically pleasing. They take advantage of, like, they're taking photos within one of their restaurants and just really showing the product. And then they also take advantage of influencer content. So they're asking people to share their content and take photos of their brand, which we'll talk a little bit more later. So kind of unlike any traditional media channels, such as like email or paid search, this is kind of like an environment where people can react to your content. So for the key takeaways for this, you really want to plan your content on a quarterly basis. You also want to be sure that you're planning by channel. And you can get inspiration from your top performing content and your competitors' content. Don't be scared to do that. Then next, you really want to stay visually consistent on Instagram. This is a really huge one if this is a platform that you're considering exploring. So now going into building a community, we're going to switch over to Amy.
Okay, so for building a community, we're going to talk a little bit about once you do all those, you make all your content interacting with the community who is seeing it. So your customers, your users, and the people who like you on social media. And a big part of that is community management. So basically, a community manager is responsible for managing and engaging with your fans, your community, like whoever is interacting with the things that you post. And a community manager should be definitely knowledgeable about the brand. They should have an idea of the tone of voice, but they should also be really organized, compassionate, and patient, because you are dealing with all kinds of people who come out and interact with you. So that's definitely something to consider. And then there's two kinds of ways to manage a community. There's kind of building a brand and then brand management. So when you're building your brand, you're using it to kind of build awareness, reach your audience, and join a conversation. And then once you start doing that, you can start managing your brand, which is using Facebook and Twitter for interacting with your customers and providing like great customer service. And then a big part of brand management, again, is using a consistent voice and tone. And a great way to do that is build out a matrix of responses to frequently asked questions ahead of time so that you can always have an idea of at least where to start. And then how social should you be? Our general rule of thumb is that less is always more. Brittany touched on this earlier, but your brand doesn't have to be on every single social platform. What matters is finding 2 or 3 that work best for you and then doing them really well. So on Facebook, you can be as active as you kind of feel you need to be. You could post as little as once a week or more, as long as it's paired with a paid strategy as well. Twitter can be kind of hit or miss for a lot of businesses, but it's a great place to join a conversation and use when used for customer service. And then Instagram, like we said, gets more important every day. Having a really visually appealing profile can make or break a lot of businesses, especially new and up and coming ones. And then here's some content we love. From a Twitter perspective, Wendy's is kind of known for being really irreverent and funny and getting involved in any conversation that's going on. Brandless, they're really good with brand transparency and just being really open and honest with their customers. And then the Books, they're a flower brand who does a really good job of mixing kind of editorial and visual content, even when it comes to Twitter. Some key takeaways from this is to really maintain that consistent voice across all platforms. Don't stretch yourself too thin. You could do that by choosing 2 to 3 channels and focusing on them, and then always remembering that community management is key, not just posting and then not checking in on what people are saying about your content. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about working with influencers. So an influencer is basically anybody who has a pretty robust social media following, access to a large audience, and can change your potential customer's way of thinking. But another way to go is also using micro-influencers. So they typically have between 1,000 and 50,000 followers, so a smaller following than influencers who can have upwards of 100,000 at times. And they typically have a more niche following, like travel, fashion, and things like that. So how to find influencer partners? A great place to start is looking at your current social channels, especially Instagram, which is where most influencers are working. See who's interacting with your content, who's tagging you in things, who's really interacting with you, and then reach out to those people first. And then it's also a great idea to follow hashtags that are related to your industry. They'll always like show you who's talking about what and who you might want to reach out to as an influencer partner. And then at the top here, we just have some examples of influencers and the different brands that they worked with. So Style, Grace, and Lace is like a mom blogger who they partnered with Friendlies. Major Street Style is a fashion brand influencer who partnered with the brand Daniel Wellington. And then Stylin' by Aylin partnered with Michaels for a lifestyle campaign. And then when you're working with influencers, just some things to keep in mind is to always have a goal. Decide early on what the goal is, whether it's building your audience, promoting a product, or engaging with your customers, and then giving the influencers clear and actionable instructions, and really establishing your goals and expectations early on so that your campaign can be as impactful as possible. Building and managing relationships with influencers. It's important to go in with an open mind and give instruction without being too prescriptive. You're kind of going in, letting them be as creative as they can. That's like what you're paying them for, essentially. And then to always keep communication open and be on the same page. Know when you want them to post. If copy or content needs to be approved before they post it, they should know all of that stuff up front. And then some more examples of just content that we love, influencers that we've worked with in the past. On the left is a lifestyle influencer. You can see their really consistent color scheme across her feed, nice product placement when she's doing a brand partnership, but it always stays consistent even when she's promoting a brand. And then to the right is a food channel, Fat Food, who profiles different restaurants basically, or sometimes snack brands. You can see there's Oreo in there and Yippee Skippy. And a few more key takeaways. Always give instruction without being prescriptive, have a goal in mind, and always be in communication with your influencers. And then next, we're going to talk a little bit about privacy regulations and how that impacts your activity on social, and especially targeting for those ads that we mentioned earlier. So they've really changed a lot over the last year, and businesses now need to know and verify to their customers where the data that they're using comes from. So when you're uploading an audience, Facebook will require information regarding where that data come from. Did it come from the customer, a customer partner, or directly from a third party? Another big part of this is just being transparent. Today, more than ever, customers and users online want to know the story behind a brand, like what you think and believe, what goes on behind the scenes. And social media really allows you to give your customers that kind of inside look. And that's really your opportunity to be fully transparent too. And then knowing where your data comes from, they'll have an option now to ask why they were served a particular ad, and it's really important to know that answer ahead of time. So there's certain data types, first person, second person, and third. So a first person is one of your customers. They subscribe, they want to be served your content. Second person is maybe you had a partnership with another company, and then third person is kind of where it gets a little tricky, like you might not have that consent to use their data. And then some key takeaways from this is just to always be transparent with your audience, know where your data is coming from, and then to always keep in mind that your audience has the right to know why they were served an ad. So if you have any questions, we can definitely answer them.
So it looks like we have one question, and it's how much should I be posting? So if you're on Instagram, you're going to want to be posting more frequently. You can be posting you can be posting probably every single day, but you can also be posting on Instagram stories as kind of just a way to connect with your customers. These are things that only stay up for 24 hours, and these could be videos, pictures, links, or you can just be sharing content to your feed every other day, but people expect to see a lot more. And then on Facebook, we would probably recommend posting once per week. And I know that a lot of you are on LinkedIn, and I don't think you need to post as frequently, but as things present themselves that you do want to post, be sure that you're active about it and post them right away. If there's different blog posts from your website or job postings. And then I see another question in here. What is the suggested response time to someone? Typically, we'd make it no more than 24 hours if you can. You don't always have to be posting on weekends. Your typical business hours are fine anywhere between 9 to 5 during the week. But you should always be sure to respond to everyone as much as you can. And then it looks like we have another question. What are the skills that make up a good community manager? Amy, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so we touched on this briefly before, but they should be definitely very familiar with your brand's voice and standards, as well as being really patient and empathetic to the audience, especially when it comes to a customer who has had a bad experience for whatever reason, and knowledgeable about the business as well. So how to handle those things with tact and patience.
I see another question in here. I represent a university, and a lot of departments and student groups ask about their events. How can we manage the requests that don't fit within our voice? So I don't think you have to always respond to everything. I think this is kind of one of the things where if you do have events that are happening, you can always share an event schedule. Maybe that's something that's weekly, or you can only just post like the really big main events on your Facebook page. I don't think if there's something that really doesn't fit within your voice, then I think you can kind of really pick and choose what you want to share. And then it looks like a lot of you guys are asking about the best use for the LinkedIn company page. I think this is just a really great place where you can show your company off as a whole, and you can really be sharing a lot of content, such as thought leadership positions. This is somewhere if you have a lot of blog posts, you can share them often. I also think that you can create content that specifically reflects your different thought leadership pieces, or if you know that there's something that you really want to focus on. But that's what I would say. There's also a different ad platform through LinkedIn, and you can kind of just go through the same parts that we touched on earlier about picking your goal and your objective, and they basically pretty much reflect that as well on LinkedIn. And it looks like that is it. If anyone has any more questions.
It looks like another question did just come in. Can you comment on the use of LinkedIn for recruiters? LinkedIn is really a great place to also show off your company culture in addition to that thought leadership, like any events that you have going on, using it to connect with other people in your industry so that when people are looking for jobs, you're, first and foremost in their minds.
Any last questions? All right, so it looks like that's it. Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget, there is another webinar on January 9th, the digital design do's and don'ts. It's going to be really exciting, so we hope to see you there.